all of the action for round 3 of the 2017 Giti Tires Australian Supertruck Championship concludes with race number 4, the 10-lap Super Prix, and it's going to be Robbie Fern who takes the lead around the outside. Marcus Prilwitz slots into second and contacts back in the pack with Craig Yardy getting a tap from Frank Amoroso, and Yardy off the road, noses up against the concrete wall, and will have to reverse out of trouble there. So once again, some drama in the opening couple of corners, and it's Fern who leads against Prilwitz, Amoroso, Craig Yardy, the light truck that's been doing such a good job of taking the fight up to the more powerful super trucks all weekend, is going to rejoin right at the back of the pack with a big deficit to make up on all of the faster trucks at the front. Robbie Fern, Marcus Prilwitz, Frank Amoroso, then Barry Butwell in 4th position. Butwell looking down on the inside of Amoroso out of turn 7. And what this has allowed is Robbie Fern in the Volvo to pull clear. So Robbie Fern's put his head down and has managed to extend some breathing space over his rivals. Then it's a tightly congested pack. Prilwitz, Amoroso, Butwell, Shannon Smith, then Stephen Zammit and Lachlan Fern in the other light truck there at the back. Shannon Smith looking to the outside of Barry Butwell as they begin lap number 2. And Robbie Fern will be loving life at the moment. He'll be looking in his mirror, seeing all of the squabbling happening behind, and using that to his advantage as Amoroso moves up into 2nd position, getting ahead of Marcus Prilwitz, and he's brought Barry Butwell and Shannon Smith with him. So Prilwitz losing a few spots in that sequence of corners, and now coming under pressure from Stephen Zammit. And he wants to try and get some of those spots back. He makes contact with Shannon Smith, who spins at the top end complex, throws up the cloud of dust. Lachlan Fern has to take evasive action. That was just on the run into the inside corner there at turn number 5. Was where the contact was made, and it was Smith who came off second best and got turned around. Prilwitz has been able to continue on. Doesn't look like either of those trucks have actually sustained any damage, fortunately. But Stephen Zammit able to take full advantage of that and move up a few spots. So Fern leads. Prilwitz up into 2nd position, so Amoroso's drops back as well out of all of that. Stephen Zammit now up to 3rd position, ahead of Marcus Prilwitz. There's Amoroso there, so he drops back in. Just ahead of Shannon Smith, Anthony Tringali there at the back. So Amoroso with the drama as well. As we say, that Barry Butwell has caught Robbie Fern, so we've got a battle for the lead happening. Robbie Fern did a very good job to pull away at the start of the race, but he's now been caught by some of the faster trucks that have started at the back of the grid. And Barry Butwell and Stephen Zammit, 2 title protagonists, now running positions 2 and 3. As Butwell gets sideways out of turn 7, Zammit ranges up on the outside. We saw an absolute ding-dong battle between these two in the last round of the Super Trucks here at Winton as well, where Butwell held Zammit out for a number of laps before Zammit was finally able to get through. And Butwell, again running defensive lines, drives it down the inside of the circuit into turn 1, forcing Zammit to try and go the long way around. And if these two battle, it could actually help Robbie Fern. He might be able to just edge away a bit. He's already starting to pull clear, dueling Butwell and Zammit. Zammit again, looking left, looking right. Trying to set up himself to be on the inside, but Butwell very adept at covering off the overtaking spots. To the top end complex they head. Turns 5, 6, and 7. Not easy corners to negotiate in these super trucks with their big mass and high centre of gravity. Quick direction changes. But well, hugging the apex once again. So important to get a good run out of turn number 7. But well, again covers to the right-hand side of the circuit, forces Zammit to try and go to the outside. Amoroso finds himself engaged in a contest with Shannon Smith, who drops the left rear wheel off the circuit on the exit of turn 7. Meanwhile, in the battle for second position, it's Butwell still holding on. Zammit trying to get the overlap out of turn 10, the final corner. Butwell again covering off to the inside. And Robbie Fern will be absolutely loving life at the moment, because while Zammit and Butwell keep dicing, Robbie Fern is not being threatened by either one of them. Through turn number 3, Sweetway again. And Zammit looks to the outside of Butwell. In behind those two we have Marcus Prilwitz holding down 4th position at this stage. And the question to be asked here is, at what point does Butwell decide that he needs to make more of an effort to get past Robbie Fern to try and put a truck between himself and Zammit? The answer to that question might be right now, because it's really bunched up in the top 3 positions. Butwell back on the tail now of Fern, but makes a big mistake out of turn 7. Almost gets rear-ended by Stephen Zammit. Great evasive action there from Zammit, who moves up into 2nd position. So a mistake for Butwell at the critical time. And Shannon Smith still trying to find his way past Frank Amoroso. And Zammit now has the chance to try and get past Robbie Fern. We saw Fern manage to hold off Butwell, but will he be able to hold off Zammit, who is so fast to that number 1 Kenworth? Holds the lap record here at Winton Motor Raceway, which is set the last time we had the Supertrucks here in September. And Zammit applying the pressure to Fern as they head through turn number 3, the sweeper. It always takes that final line through there, Stephen Zammit, just to appear in the mirrors of the driver that was putting the pressure under, and switches back to the inside at turn 4. That'll give him a nice run up the inside through turn 5. And truck number 1 goes to position number 1. Stephen Zammit takes the race lead. But Barry Butwell's going to try and capitalise on that as well. Looks around the outside of Robbie Fern, and that puts him on the inside for turn number 7. So Robbie Fern loses a couple of spots. Very good racecraft there for Barry Butwell. We saw that the door was going to open up with Stephen Zammit heading through, and he marched on through as well. So once again we have our 2 championship leaders running in positions 1 and 2. Robbie Fern in 3rd position, and Frank Amoroso off at turn 8. He was of course involved in that battle with Shannon Smith, but Smith finally pressured him into a mistake when he outbraked himself and went off the racetrack. And Lachlan Fern wanting to get him on the action there as well. So Amoroso will drop out of that 5th position. And now go the way of Shannon Smith. Zammit with clear track at the front. Butwell doing his best to stay with him. Robbie Fern wanting to hold on to the top 3 position. Marcus Prilwitz trying to salvage some points from what's been a pretty tough weekend for him so far, where he just hasn't quite had the pace that he's needed to be a contender at the sharp end of the field, as we saw from him in the first couple of rounds of the series. It's really out of turn number 7 where Zammit seems to have the advantage. That number 1 Kenworth is just so good at putting its power down out of the slow corners and then accelerating. Butwell, if anything, is probably a bit better than Zammit through some of the corners. Max Superrider maybe just a little bit more nimble, but Zammit drives extremely well. We know just how good he is. And on target to extend his points advantage. Oh no, Robbie Fern off at turn 1. Shoots through the gravel trap, gasses it up, gets back on at turn 2. And manages to hold on to 3rd position, but falls into the clutches of Prilwitz and also Shannon Smith. So that's a bit of a shame there for Robbie Fern, who had done such a good job in the race up to that point. Only a couple of laps left, and it's Zammit who's starting to tighten his stranglehold on this race. We'll look back to Lachlan Fern, who was the best with the light trucks, in fact the sole remaining light truck demise of Craig Yardy with that incident on lap number 1. And Marcus Prilwitz, who's trying to make a move there on Robbie Fern, getting wide at turn 7. And Shannon Smith's shortly going to join in that battle as well, so we're shaping up to have potentially a three-way contest for third position in the closing couple of laps of this race. 2 laps to go. And the top 2 positions look pretty stable at the moment. Although Butwell's not given up, he's still throwing everything that he's got at Stephen Zammit. And here comes Shannon Smith down the inside of Robbie Fern, so Prilwitz lost some time there at turn number 7. On the previous lap, and that works to the advantage of Shannon Smith. So Shannon Smith's made up a couple of positions in the last half a lap or so. Oh, and here's a pass, so that's Anthony Tringali getting past Lachlan Fern. Lachlan Fern has slowed down, so maybe some mechanical problems for him as well. But he's going to have to try and nurse his Isuzu light truck to the finish line and make sure that he comes out of this race with some points. Obviously, it's a good opportunity for him to capitalise, given that his light truck rival Craig Yardy is out of the race. Oh, and Marcus Prilwitz, around he goes. That's at turn number 7. Maybe just a bit too early there on the gas. He had been battling, of course, with Shannon Smith and also Robbie Fern, and he's made a mistake and also fallen in behind Frank Amoroso. So, unfortunately for Marcus Prilwitz, the second of the Max Superliner drivers, this has not been the weekend for him. Fight for the lead is still on. Barry Butwell has closed the gap to Stephen Zammit. Prilwitz with all sorts of garbage on his tyres, struggling to make it through the final 3 corners. And Butwell very competitive in terms of pace too. His best lap of the race only a tenth of a second slower than Stephen Zammit, so he's had just as much pace pretty much as the current championship leader, but just doesn't have the track position at the moment. Through the top end complex of corners for the final time. And Stephen Zammit, another masterful performance, got to the front and managed to hold the lead from there on in. But Barry Butwell has made him work for it. Still going to be Stephen Zammit's win though. He will take the overall honours in round number 3. GT Tire's Australian Supertruck Championship. He'll extend his points lead as well. 1 round to go at Wakefield Park in December to crown our national champion. Barry Butwell finishes up in 2nd position. 3rd position goes to Shannon Smith, 4th to Robbie Fern, 5th to Frank Amoroso. 6th position will go the way of Marcus Prilwitz after that big mistake and spin that we saw at turn number 7. And then Anthony Tringali will come through for 7th position. His personal best race result so far. Lachlan Fern limping to the line in position number 8, and Craig Yardy, the only DNF that we've seen in the Supertrucks all weekend.
I started the last race well, but finished it fairly badly. So, you know, that's not the first time. It probably won't be the last. So, yeah, it was a good weekend. The truck performed well, and I managed not to do too much damage. So, yeah, all good.
Went fairly hard there, trying to get a few places back up. We were trying to get around the corner at the same time and be in the same place at the end of it. Didn't quite work out. So, but anyway, we'll regroup and head back to Goulburn and see how we go.
We're almost where we want to be. A little bit more, just to catch Zammit, and that's we'll be back at Wakefield and we'll be a bit better. We get that little bit more, we get on top of him, we'll be right.
We're edging closer to another championship, so we set out this weekend just to have a nice, safe weekend and finish every race. And not only did we do that, we've just bridged another big gap in the championship. So going into Wakefield, it's going to be very hard for the other boys to come up and then take this off me. But I know they won't be giving up anytime soon. So we'll still have to keep our wits about us and just keep going through and having some good racing.
Thanks everyone for coming out to support the trucks this weekend at the truck show. Got to thank the GT Tires for supporting and also everyone, like I said, everyone that helps out and just keeping the sport going because it's a really good thing. So thanks very much.
So that completes round number 3 of the 2017 GT Tires Australian Supertruck Championship. First weekend of December is when we'll crown the 2017 series champion in the final round at Wakefield Park. See you then.